Hi, this is Matthew. Welcome to this podcast. I'm talking about cults and wanted to share another point about cults today that I've observed, and it's a bit troubling. A lot of people know this already, but people don't talk about it too much. And that is the fact that when you give money to somebody, when you're supplying money to someone who's desperate, someone who's broke, someone who's been living in a place with dirt floors, drinking dirty water, never really getting a balanced diet, um, and you give them money, you come from another country. I've been to many, many places around the world, and um, Americans have a reputation for being rich, even though not all Americans are. And anybody who lives in America and any American knows that. There's all kinds of poverty, and it's getting worse. There are tents coming up all over the place. There are school children that go to school hungry. There are there's a lot of poverty in America, but people around the world don't know that. And a lot of times, compared to people that are living in very, very poor areas around the world that I've seen, um, most Americans are still richer than them, even if they're poor. Even if an American considers themselves to be poor, they still are. They still are rich. So for some of these kids that I know in Uganda, just to be able to go get a Coke from the local general store is just a huge treat. We had Pepsi in the house all the time when I was a kid. We weren't rich, we were lower middle class. So there's a factor here when it comes to cults. Cults have a tendency to buy devotion, to buy more sheep, to buy more followers. Part of this is a desire to save souls. They think that they're actually saving souls with their dogma. They'll go on missions. They'll, especially Christianity, they'll give holy books. But it's not only Christianity that deludes people. But one of the key things that I've seen is people giving money, people donating, people giving. This is really popular right now. I'm in northern Thailand, and I've been here off and on for 15 years. Most recently, I've been here just for a couple of years, and a lot of the persuasive tactics that are used by religious extremists is to find children that are vulnerable and give them gifts of candy, or build them send them to school, give them uniforms. I know recently about they bought a bunch of uniforms for school, which I don't know about uniforms for school. And I certainly don't know about most education systems. I haven't seen much good in most education systems that are sponsored and run by governments anyway. When you give these people these gifts, they feel obligated to sign up for your church because what they get is so much material benefit compared to what they got before. So I've been aware for many, many years about how religious people will be going on missions, or they'll be going and helping out financially groups of people that really don't have any belief whatsoever. Sincerely, they don't believe, but because of the money they do, because of the financial benefit they do. And so we think we can call these guys converts, or we think we can call these guys believers, but really they're not. And so many different cultures around the world are wise to this. They say, okay, just play along. I was introduced to this idea when I was working on the south side of Chicago. And there were some groups, evangelical groups, that would have a church, not necessarily evangelical, all Christian, pretty much all Christian though. They had a church. They would preach to you But and they would give you food, but before they would give you food, they would make you listen to some Bible story or something like that. And people would sit there, they would listen through that. Now, when I was talking to a lot of the homeless people or extremely poor people on the south side of Chicago, the people that I talked to said, no, we don't believe that. We don't believe that at all. But we get free food. So we sit through their baloney and we listen to that and nod and smile. Yeah, okay. So that we can get our meal. Now, a lot of the leaders, they know more about that than I do. A lot of the missionaries, a lot of the preachers, they know more about that than I do, that I'm talking about right now. They know what's going on, but they hope that if they pound it into your head long enough, that finally you'll come to accept it in a moment of vulnerability, in a moment of weakness, in a moment of desperation. You'll believe their dogma. And once you get hooked, it's kind of like jumping into a meat grinder. Once your foot gets caught in there, you're stuck, because it pulls you in the rest of the way, because of the whole design of this brainwashing virus that promises this huge carrot and motivates with this huge stick. It's an incredible situation people get stuck in mentally. And if they don't really know how the game works, of course, they're going to get stuck in that. But talk about that more in other podcasts. But what I wanted to share about today, just the idea that a lot of people are bought with material things, and they're kind of forced into some cult, some religious group, because they got no place else to go. They got no other source of income. They got no other source of community, no other source of people that are there, that care about that. But it's all under the umbrella of manipulation, of mind control, of controlling, not empowering you. Okay, empowerment is missing. If I'm going to truly empower you, I'm going to let you think what you want. I'm going to let you believe what you want. Maybe I don't agree, but I'm not going to try to indoctrinate you. I'm just going to share you what I know, and I'm going to especially ask you questions. I'm not going to tell you some old ancient story, but I'm going to ask you, what do you love to do? What do you enjoy doing? When you do something, the time passes quickly. What is that? What goals do you have? What values do you have? What dreams do you have? I'm going to ask you those things, and then I'm going to fashion my feedback, my actions, my interactions with what's going to empower you to have the life that you want, as long as you're not hurting anybody else. And as long as you're empowering yourself, go for it. Be a painter, bicycle across the country, become a doctor, become a programmer, whatever it is that turns you on. And if that changes, okay, change, do something else. We go through phases in life, especially when we're young. We go through more, but we can do that when we're older if we're in touch with our soul. Life is dynamic. Things change, circumstances change, we grow, we learn. So can you see the difference between my motivation to empower, or my motivation to control, my motivation to put you in a box, my motivation to control your thinking by using ancient legends and mind tricks? Well, one of these things, they talk about, what is it, Pascal's wager? I better worship God just in case he exists. I don't know if he does or not, but I guess I'm safer worshiping him. But in fact, there are thousands of gods. So which one do you worship? And that's a coward's way out. That's a very, that's based on fear. And I had to have that confrontation myself when I was 25 years old, and finally said, I'm not afraid anymore. I don't care. Do with me what you will. I'm not going to live a lie. I'm not going to base my life just because I'm afraid of some possibility. That's a weak heart and a weak mind. So contrast, what is it? Become aware. When is someone really empowering you? And this could go for some religious fanatic that's trying to talk you into something. This could go for a mate, a boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, children to parents, parents to children, even children to parents. Sometimes that's possible. Your boss to you. Who is it in your life? Not only religion. Cults can be any kind of thing. Could be, worshiping a sports team, which people have killed over, worshiping money, worshiping, could be worshiping a political leader. There's so many possibilities of where you can be influenced from. And I call all of these cults anything that controls your mind so that you're not able to think for yourself, so that you're not able to make your own decisions because you're getting some kind of a threat or some kind of a huge promise, some kind of a fantasy that somebody sold you. More often it's a threat. If you don't do this, anytime you hear that, if you don't do this, don't be afraid. Live your life with courage. Think for yourself. Just because somebody gives you something doesn't mean that you have to follow their cult. Doesn't mean that they can control your mind. Find another way. Find a way to try to support yourself, to get support from people, and to give support to people that don't have all these strings attached. Because that's a big game with the religious fanatics of this world that are trying to convert everybody. False promises, bribes, manipulation, coercion, guilt. That's it for today. Thanks for listening. Cult Podcast, part of the Cult series from Everybody Community. It's important to know these things.